Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. Excuse me if I sound a little rough. I haven't been awake for particularly long because my sleeping pattern is completely doolally. However, I have been dying to make this video since about 4 o'clock in the morning. I was chatting away to Mauler. We'll see him later on the Real BBC over on the Nerdrotics channel. And suddenly something appeared on TwitTwat. And it was this. Now, this is a cross-section of various videos about Shang Chi, as you can see, with a big LOL stuck in the middle of it. There's Quartering, Critical Drinker, Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, myself, Clownfish, Ryan down there as well. And of course, it's mocking the opinions that were been given about the movie. Shang-Chi's a big flop 3 weeks ago. Will Shang-Chi be Marvel's first flop? From Critical Drinker. Shang-Chi falls apart before release. Shang-Chi flop could delay Eternals, I believe. That's from Gary. Does anyone actually care about Shang-Chi? From myself. Again, Clownfish. Shang-Chi will break Labor Day records, but will still flop. And then Ryan, worst MCU box office ever. Now, this is based off A, opinion, and B, tracking. And based off the fact that there seemed to be very little interest in Shang-Chi, so much so to the degree that Marvel actually released a trailer for Spider-Man Far From Home to energize people, or that's what it definitely appeared. Maybe it energized them into Shang-Chi, I don't know. But it appeared that they had almost given up themselves on the movie. And box office tracking had it to do between 35 million and 55 million on its opening weekend, which it surpassed. We'll get to that momentarily. But you could say to yourself, yeah, Az, don't worry, it's just some troll because it's done a little bit better than expected. Oh, dude, you gotta have thicker skin. If you got thin skin for stuff like this, you might as well just get out. But what was very interesting about this, if I just pull the screen down, is that this came from from Simu Liu, who is the alleged main actor of Shang-Chi. I say alleged because having actually seen the film, this guy is a bit player in his own movie. The real stars of the show are Aquafina, his sister, and he literally just gets dragged along for the ride. Every single person upstages him. The guy is a charisma black hole. He literally sucks in everyone else's charisma when they're around him. So to have the main star of Shang-Chi put this out, I gotta say, Simu, you're making me happy. Thank you for the exposure. Thank you that you expose yourself as being incredibly fragile in personality, that when some people's opinions get to you, you do something like this. Now, what is interesting, folks, is let's have a look at the actual box office itself, because that is doing okay. Now, I say okay, people are getting a little bit excited, and they might be getting a wee bit too excited. I'm going to go into that momentarily. So, it was predicted to do between 35 million and 55 million in its opening weekend. That would be the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not the Labor Day Monday. And it actually ended up doing 71 million during that period. So 16 million above the highest prediction. I'm not going to pretend that's not good. That's good. And it certainly shocked me. I thought it was going to do way, way lower than that. So maybe that Spider-Man boost might have given people a little bit of renewed interest. Oh, yeah, we got this Marvel movie coming out. Or, you know, who knows? It is Disney. You just never know about these things nowadays. But there again, because this came on the USA Labor Day weekend, a lot of people really, really blowing this out of all proportion. Oh, this is the biggest Labor Day weekend for forever. It's absolutely annihilated the record, yada, 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 yada. Now, if you go back in time and look at how Labor Day films have done, they've not been great. I think the top one was Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. But the thing is, it's interesting when one rule seems to happen for one thing and then stops for another. I mean, all that we have heard since the movie industry is attempting to get itself back on its feet, and there's not been a lot of movies out this year as a whole, is all bets are off now in a post-COVID world. Because we have had 18 months of the coof, and that has significantly changed a lot of the behavior patterns of people. Now, I don't think it really mattered whether this was a Labor Day weekend or a regular weekend, because of the way that people have been locked up for so long and have been Spartan for new films, new entertainment, with some filtering onto streaming platforms. Shang Chi was one of those events where people could go out. It's a new movie. People could go out. That could have expedited matters. Who knows? Again, it's just speculation. You can have an opinion, you know. Just saying. But when Black Widow came out, Black Widow not only had a theatrical release, but it also had a Disney Plus release. It certainly didn't have an HBO release, a Disney Plus release. And what we know from Marvel, the official figures that we got from Marvel, is that it did $60 million in its first week on Disney Plus, where it would do the bulk of its sales. And it also did around $85 million at the box office. So domestically, because I don't know if you can technically get HBO elsewhere around the world, can't hear, but technically it did around 145 million domestically in its first week. Shang-Chi, is it tracking to do that domestically? No. And I think that was the opening weekend of Black Widow as well. So it's definitely not doing anywhere near as good as that. Does it have to? No, of course it doesn't have to. It just has to do relatively well. The problem is Shang-Chi has a budget comparative to Black Widow. Black Widow's budget is approximately 200 million. Shang-Chi's budget has been predicted at approximately 180 million. So they are very, very close indeed as regards to that. And as expected, you see that there has been a significant drop-off on the Monday box office. It's down 36% from the Sunday, with the Saturday and Sunday actually doing all right. The Friday doing better than both of the weekend days. So it's very early doors as regards to how well Shang-Chi is actually going to perform, but that's enough. That's enough right now for a lot of people to come out and go, no, it's a roaring success, everyone's wrong, yada, 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 everyone go home, all the haters gonna hate, blah, blah, blah. Now, again, as somebody who's actually seen the film, instead of just projecting, I don't think it's great at all. I think there are some good moments, particularly with Tony Leung. However, Marvel could have created something different here, and they didn't. They decided that every time they did something a little bit different, they needed to fall back into generic, bland Marvel cringe formula, which unfortunately seems to be the the new norm in the last few years. There was a very interesting story to be told with Tony Leung's essentially Fu Manchu character, but they only touched on it. And every time it came on, it was interesting. And every time they went back to the charisma black hole that is Simu Liu, it just lost it, with the side characters being cringe as hell. And of course, his sister being the bestest ever at everything, with god-awful plot conveniences along the way and massive plot holes too. But don't worry about that. It's full of Asians, folks. And we live in a superficial world, at least when it comes to media and projection on the screen. So ergo, that automatically makes it look great. Now let's have a look at a lesson from the past, shall we? This here is an article from Forbes when The Last of Us Part 2 was released. And the title is, The Last of Us Part 2's sales reveal a predictable truth about controversy. It's been clear from the start that the various controversies surrounding The Last of Us Part 2 have been mostly in bad faith. Like swirling around after Naughty Dog's first reveal of its lesbian relationship and its transition away from the classic sad dad protagonist towards the younger female Ellie. But it certainly made the discourse surrounding the whole thing pretty toxic, even as we're now after release and able to move into more substantive discussion of the full game. Even so, one thing is clear. The various controversies have done nothing to dampen sales. Pretty strong words from Forbes there. Now, of course, the controversies that he's talking about don't really revolve around Ellie being gay at all in The Last of Us Part 2. So the term bad faith kind of comes back to bite this person in the ass. Ellie was revealed as gay in the first game's DLC. No, what people had a problem with The Last of Us Part 2 was the exact treatment of Joel. The way that the character of Joel was dispatched so early and so recklessly, and it was a trope that they used countless times in the game, negating any sort of impact that it would have for Joel. On top of that, Joel was a beloved character, and it showed, again, massive amounts of disrespect for this character, which really did carry the first game, to pass the torch over to Ellie, which people didn't have that much of a problem with. However, the Ellie in this video game was nothing like the Ellie from the first Last of Us at all. Then the characters that she got involved with were wooden and one-dimensional. They tried to bring a trans element into the show, and I don't mean Abby Smash. I'm talking about one of the other characters, and it was ridiculous in a post-apocalyptic world where they were still trying to have a progressive Seattle. It was nauseatingly bad. Bad faith, you say, though. Not affecting the sales, you say, though. Here's an article that happened just a few days later. The Last of Us 2 sales dropped by 80% in its second week, expected to dip further. After becoming such a big seller in the first week, sales absolutely fell off a cliff. Well, that's because it did very well in its first week. No, not necessarily. We've had a good substantive string of sales with other games, GTA 5 being one of them. You just can't stop selling that video game, so much so that it retained its high value for so many years before eventually starting to trickle down. No, a lot of people that were playing the game were absolutely livid at the story, the treatment of the characters, and we saw all manner of videos of people destroying their discs, whinging and moaning, including myself, about the characters, etc., etc. But again, people wanted to take their immediate victory because of an initial bump. But this isn't a sprint. This is a marathon. And in Shang Chi's case, it's a 45-day marathon because that's how long it has exclusively at the cinema before it goes on to streaming services. I'm going to be very interested to see how Shang-Chi's performance goes in the next 2 weeks. And I suggest everyone who wants to get their licks in, get them in quickly. Because I got a feeling that we might see something similar when it comes to this film. And then I also have another feeling, I get feelings everywhere, ladies, that some voices might go very, very quiet indeed. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you did, do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media and YouTube for live streaming. Links there in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. In actual fact, the real BBC should be on right now over on Nerderotics channel. Go join myself, Gary, and Mauler for some discussions. You take care. Bye for now.